Hello YouTube. Looks like we're online. We are starting a little bit early today, following with the start 5 minutes early to 10 minutes late plan. Let us create helpful expectations for us all. Welcome YouTube to Alan stream number 29. Today's stream titled Reskilling for the 21st Century. So, yeah, I'll just talk a bit as people filter into the stream. A topic I've been interested in for a long time is this general idea you could call workflow. Something about being efficient. We're all assigned to do stuff at various times in our life. For example, as a student, you're asked to complete homework assignments. You start working a job. If you're working for a well-organized company, then they'll be able to clearly enumerate the duties that are required of you. And if the company's well-organized as well, they'll probably be able to train you and show you what to do. Now, of course, there's a lot of companies these days where that isn't the case. Rather, you'll be thrown out into the wilderness and expected to make the best of some situation. But, ideally, in a well-run company, what you have is what you're supposed to do is clearly laid out. Someone more senior could show you how to do that thing. Oh, we have guest rolling in. What's up, Ross to Biden? Welcome to the stream. Yes, so today's title, Reskilling for the 21st Century. So especially for people that are maybe in some sort of school or training at this point, I think that the topics we'll be discussing today are relevant. I remember when I was in school, in grade school, basically everybody was talking about going to college. There was actually this term, college prep course. So, well, let's bring up some topics. Let's look at this term, grade inflation. What is grade inflation? Zoom for the Zoomers. Grade inflation, also known as grading leniency, is the awarding of higher grades than students deserve. Subjective term here, but we digress, which yields a higher average grade given to students. So basically one way to look at this is if a teacher is not expected to give anyone below, like, say, a B, because that'll hurt people's feelings or something like that, then you might have a class where the class average is A, the best students get A+, the worst students, maybe they get a B- or a C, something like that. Anyways, all over the place, this idea of, or this phenomenon of grade inflation is happening, such that if you look at someone's educational attainment, say what degrees they had, what grades they had, you could ask this question: how useful of that is an indicator of somebody's likely performance, for example, on a job? So if somebody has all A's, does that tell you, for example, that this person is likely to show up on time for work and do what is asked of them? Probably not, especially like for university. Like I've gotten A's in classes where I skipped a bunch of class and then got an A in the class. Likewise, there's students that might attend all the classes and not do well in the class. All sorts of variation. And there's a lot of students, of course, that probably attend all the classes and get all A's. But the correlation isn't so transparent. Maybe in grade school, you can't skip class so easily as you can as a university student. So, but anyways, what does like an A tell you? Does that mean that this person is able to identify new, unusual opportunities, to have special insight, to take risk? Or does it mean that they're good at just falling into line and checking boxes and doing what's told of them? I'll leave that for the viewers to decide. Anyways, that's the idea of grade inflation here, where someone says they're a straight A student in 2021. What does that tell you about them? Besides that, clearly, to have like straight A's in 2021, you have to at least somewhat care about how the school evaluates you. You wouldn't be a straight A student if you just didn't care whatsoever about the school's evaluation. So, not telling you all to get A's or to not get A's. Just look at a metric like, what does getting all A's in school mean about you? And I'm saying this as a student who is, an A student pretty much. I've gotten some B's. I might have even gotten a C, but for the most part, I was an A student. So what does being an A student mean? One answer could mean you're an excellent bug man. You're good at falling into line and doing what you're told. And will that actually benefit you in life? Will other people value what you do? Or will it just mean that you're good at getting plugged into somewhere and getting paid a very measly compensation for falling into line? I leave that all for you, the viewers, to evaluate for yourself. So, returning, reskilling for the 21st century. The theme of today's stream is this general push all around, talking about how, the future's changing. We got robots, we got artificial intelligence, we got all this stuff around. So you need to change what you do. If, say, you own or operate a restaurant, you're really good at cooking some dishes, you know some traditional craft, let's say you do carpentry or something, is that good enough for the 21st century? Well, one of the, I would call it, traumatizing aspects of the 21st century is that there's this constant push to people all the time that stuff is changing and you need to change what you're doing. So it's like, don't just focus on doing a good job on what you have right in front of you, but always keep looking around, keep on finding out what is the good thing to do. And especially for students, young people starting out that might not have very much resources under their control, this could be a very stressful, mind-bending sort of thing. And then you meet your friend who maybe they put a bunch of money into some meme stock and then they like quadrupled their wealth overnight without any formal education. Your friend that works at a gas station or something. So that's the world we're navigating in 2021. Let's talk about reskilling. Ross Biden says, Alan said I shouldn't do my homework or else I'm a soy Wojak Bugman Zoomer. Well, I don't know if I'm going to say that that's right or wrong. Let's just say that the completion of your homework, it could involve you completing your homework, or if you're an entrepreneurial individual, maybe your homework will be completed in non-traditional means. There's more than one way for homework to be completed. Okay. So let's get into some stream news logistics stuff here. So I came up with this idea that I'm doing the stream semi-regularly. One useful thing to perhaps do is to have a kind of word or words of the day. So we could all slowly learn a bunch of big brain words in Greek and Latin or some other languages if something is relevant. But I think Greek and Latin are pretty useful for English, French, Spanish, whatever language you choose. Greek and Latin origin words are the basis for a bunch of vocabulary, especially like smart sounding big brain vocabulary in this language. So how do people learn new words? I think one thing that's agreed upon is repetition, hearing the same words, seeing the words used in various ways. So if one useful thing we could do on the stream is to present and to use some new vocabulary such that you all could effortlessly learn new vocabulary just by tuning into the stream, that sounds like a winning plan to me. So I'll try this out. If people seem interested in it, I'll keep on doing it. And in any case, I think it's good for me. I was never given a classical education myself, so I'm kind of inventing and learning this stuff as I go. But the more I learn about like Greek words, Latin words, stuff like that, the more I see them all over around me. So hopefully by doing this through these streams, I could learn better by preparing this, and maybe you all too could learn some words. So just some fun words to start. The first one I have here is Novus Ordo Seclorum. Novus being new, Ordo, order, and then Seclorum is of the ages. I think it's the same root as like century, French siècle. So Seclorum is of the ages. So what is this phrase? Well, New Order of the Ages sounds like New World Order. It's something that is written on the Great Seal of the United States on the back. If you check out a $1 bill, I think it's printed on there. You could see that. So this is not obscure pulling this out of nowhere. This is literally on dollar bills, which you can find all over the place. We're not digging into really hidden waters. This is stuff that's everywhere. So what does this strange phrase mean, and where do we see it? Let's take a look. So the Great Seal is a principal national symbol of the United States. National symbol, eh? Symbols to represent the United States, eh? This phrase is used both for the physical seal itself, which is kept by the U.S. Secretary of State, and more generally for the design impressed upon it. The obverse, so the reverse of the Great Seal, depicts the national coat of arms of the U.S. So here we have this pyramid, and it has another Latin, so maybe we'll use this for another day. Annuit coeptis, what does this mean? Favors are undertaking. And then we see a creepy pyramid, and then under it says Novus, new, ordo, order, seclorum, of the ages. So now you know, on your dollar bill, the reverse side of the seal, New Order of the Ages. And we could really quick look at, or let's look at this page again, because I think then the Greek word I had was associated with this. Oh, not the Great Seal page. Let's just look at Novus Ordo Seclorum on Wikipedia. So here, New Order of the Ages. And then here, we have a little passage that's saying where the phrase comes from and what it means. The phrase is a reference to the fourth eclogue of Virgil, which contains a passage, lines 5 through 8, that reads, "Now is come the final era of the Sibyl song. The great order of the ages is born afresh. Now justice returns, honored rules return, or return of Saturn's reign. And a new lineage is sent down from high heaven." Wait, why are we talking about Saturn? Who's Saturn? What's Saturn about? Saturn, a god in ancient Roman religion. All right. The planet Saturn, day of the week, Saturday, are associated with him. So who is Saturn associated with? According to Varro, Saturn's name was derived from satus, meaning sowing. Even though this etymology is problematic from the viewpoint of modern linguistics, blah blah blah, nevertheless it does reflect an original feature of the god. Alright, so what's up about Saturn? Tell us about Saturn. A position of Saturn's festival in the Roman calendar led to his association with concepts of time, especially the temporal transition of the new year. In the Greek tradition, Cronus was sometimes conflated with Cronus time, and his devouring of his children, taken as an allegory for the passing of generations. The sickle or scythe of Father Time is a remnant of the agricultural implement of Cronus Saturn, and its aged appearance represents the waning of the old year with the birth of the new. The birth of the new, a great reset, a new era, a Novus Ordo Seclorum, a new order of the ages. So Saturn in Roman religion, lots of stuff about him. People are confused with Greek and Roman traditions mixing. Sacrifices to Saturn. Okay. Well, I'm not prepared to talk too much more about Saturn, but that's just to say we have an association with Saturn. The return of Saturn's reign. What does that mean? And then the Greek word of the day I had to do with Sibyl here. So I think a lot of people aren't so well aware of Sibyl. So the Greek Sívylla, a feminine noun. You could get more details on Wikipedia. That'll be our Greek word of the day. Sibyl in English, Sívylla in Greek. Who is Sibyl? The Sibyls were prophetesses or oracles in ancient Greek. The earliest Sibyls, according to legend, prophesied at holy sites. Their prophecies were influenced by divine inspiration from a deity, originally at Delphi and Pisinos. Late antiquity, various writers attested to the existence of Sibyls in Greece, Italy, the Levant, and Asia Minor. So oracles, divine counsel, they could predict the future and stuff. So they could see and know a bunch of stuff. Then we have Michelangelo depicting Sibyls here. Some Renaissance depictions. Maybe some things that we want to censor out to make this a PG-friendly stream. All right. So, the United States. Curious how on our national seal we have this phrase Novus Ordo Seclorum, which refers to this these lines of this poem by Virgil, which alludes to a return of Saturn's reign, and we're calling this the final era of the Sibyl song. So some pagan prophet predicts some stuff, and it's the end of Saturn's reign. That's an interesting symbol to represent our nation. Yet that is what we see on the money. So follow the money. Those are the Greek word for today, Sívylla, and the Latin Novus Ordo Seclorum. Now you know. You could look into these topics and share with me if you find any other interesting knowledge nuggets. Now let us learn more about our new order that we're in. So the title of my stream here, Reskilling for the 21st Century. So what do I mean by reskilling? What is Alan talking about? Is this a thing? I think clearly if you look around, especially if you check out marketing with education, training of various sorts, you're going to see lots of advertisements talking about like new things to learn to get ahead, advance your career, and stuff like that. So here I have pulled up links to 4 relatively recent big companies that people use in order to learn new skills. So let's look at what sort of skills they want to teach you on sites like Pluralsight, Khan Academy, Skillshare, and Brilliant. So if you go on YouTube and you search up all sorts of stuff, you're likely to run into these named companies. This is not obscure Alan digging in and finding representative examples for some obscure viewpoint. These are all very common known things. Okay, Reaper says, why is that pagan and not Greek religion? By Greek religion, it is pagan. Multiple different gods, mythology. I'm basically equating Greek religion and pagan in this sense. Okay, let's look at Pluralsight. So here it looks like this. Oh, the link I had is for this initiative, Pluralsight 1. So what is this Pluralsight 1 about? Democratizing technology skills. Quote, we believe technology has the power to create freedom, equality, and opportunity around the globe. So we get this rhetoric where it's like the skills are about the technology, and then this technology is supposed to somehow liberate people. So how does the technology give you freedom, equality, and opportunity around the globe? Let's find out. So Pluralsight 1 is our commitment to drive significant, lasting social impact by improving equal access to technology skills and investing in catalytic solutions. So certainly they do, this is not false advertising, in that sites like Pluralsight, they do provide, like, if you're living in India or Africa or something, you want to learn about JavaScript, then through a site like this, you are able to learn more about JavaScript. So, this is not false advertising in that sense. We'll look more as we go through the stream to what does it mean, though, to become more skilled in this way. Is this something that you would want for your family, for your country? Or is this a way in which certain octopus tentacles are spreading out and getting more people under their control? Ross Biden says, bro, no way, Alan cancels Khan Academy. Dude, I'm not canceling them. What I'm saying about, like, these places like Khan Academy, I'm not saying that their product isn't what is advertised. They're delivering what they say that they're doing, like giving all this technology info and stuff. But we have to look at the very technologies that they're trying to democratize and, like, what those technologies are used to develop. And then we could ask the question of, if like for your family, for you, would you even want your family to get more involved with these things? That is the question of the hour. Okay, so let's look at, here in the title, the tech skills gap. What is this about? A lack of access, not ability. The global technology skills gap. So what are these technology skills? We'll be looking at this more. But here, just look at how this is framed. Look at the rhetoric, right? It's saying there's a problem. People around the world are not bugman enough, right? There's a technology skills gap. So life is about this, how do we get people to be more technological? Let's look at that. Ross Biden says, it's literally a free world-class education, you bugging, bro. Indeed it is a world class. It's a class in globalism. So, like I said, it is what it is as is advertised. I'm not saying let's DDoS and shut down Pluralsight and stuff. But we could say, what are the skills that they're training for? And if more people get involved with these technologies, what kind of world is being built? That is the question. So, quote, nonprofits don't have access to technology skills. They need to serve their communities best and achieve their missions. The youth of today need the skills of tomorrow to thrive. Skills of tomorrow. That's why we need to change the way we learn. We need to disrupt how education reacts to technology, to empower students and educators to create with technology. All right. The skills gap is exacerbated in underserved populations, perpetuating inequalities and stalling effective solution development across the globe. These communities face some of the world's toughest challenges, and yet they lack access to the tech skills to overcome them and excel. We don't believe this issue can be solved simply by connecting communities with technology. We need to connect them with opportunities to develop technology skill. So, of course, if you just dump a bunch of laptops in like some remote village, then how are people going to know how to use them? How do you get people linked into your, your cloud services, your financial systems, all of that? Obviously, they're going to need to know how to use these and to get more plugged into these systems in order to be able to use these technologies more like a first world country, however you might phrase that. Reaper says, I definitely don't want my family to get more involved with Windows updates. So glad these sites teaching other people how to do that stuff. Yeah, these other people could write the Windows updates so you don't have to. So let's look at the problems they're talking about. So they're saying a lot of young people are unemployed. The global poverty rate can be reduced by more than half if all adults complete secondary education. Now, of course, there's tons of assumptions packed into this. So what if, for example, you don't complete secondary education, but like people that bake bread or just operate a little business, they're actually paid well and compensated for what they do, then suddenly it isn't about secondary education. It's about other things that's determining how well people are paid. But what these tech nerds want to do is they want to couple educational attainment with money attainment, so that the more you invest, the more of a bug man under their control you become, the more that you're paid, rather than, do you operate and provide good service. These two problems are not the same. But by smashing them together in people's heads and saying like, oh, education, technology, that's how we keep up, then you're able to make this sale of these skills which are constantly being created. All right. So it's talking about how people aren't doing enough school, and because of that, people get left behind, so to speak, from all these tech developments. So accelerating the missions of nonprofits, supporting communities through volunteerism. What is this about? Our communities commit significant volunteer hours upskilling. So here, this is what I'm saying. I'm calling this reskilling for the 21st century. Now they're talking about upskilling in this rhetoric. What is upskilling? What are these skills? Is it learning how to do carpentry or something? Or is it about becoming more of a nerd? Upskilling and supporting populations such as refugees, individuals facing poverty and homelessness, LGBTQ plus youth, and more. All right. What's happening here? So nothing wrong with giving people opportunities and giving people jobs and giving people opportunities to succeed. Then you got to look and see what sort of stuff are they trying to build. Okay, let's continue looking through this. Investing in technology-driven solutions. So is it people-powered? No. Nope. Tech. Bugman engineering. Pluralsight 1 fuels innovation and amplifies impact by funding solutions and programs at scale. We focus on opportunity, transforming education, increasing employability. What kind of employability are you increasing? Bugman tech employment? Or just, people being able to have a decent wage doing something normal, like service job, construction, something like that, and driving innovation. So once again, nerds trying to change, trying to disrupt everything. So let's learn about these technology-powered solutions. All right, blah, blah, blah. Growth. Unrestricted funds. Sounds kind of suspicious. Engaging meaningfully. I don't know what that's about. Zero ego. What? We invest in organizations that are without ego. or as close to any human organization could be. What does that mean? Does that mean having a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization? So there's no ego involved because it's an algocracy. You're ruled by a program, so that there's nobody whose ego could get involved because you're all just plugged into like the one algorithm, like this nerd here. Is that what we're going for here? I don't know. Let's take a look. Zero ego. We partner to accelerate their impact and envision a future where they are obsolete because the root problem they set out to address has been solved. So get rid of the people, just get people plugged into the DAO, the decentralized autonomous organization, and then there's no people, there's no ego problems, because the root problem being you, a person, you, selfish ego, you're out of the picture, then everything will be hunky-dory. Is that the idea? So build agency, not reliance. We believe that potential is evenly distributed. We invest in organizations that build agency, like three-lettered agencies. What sort of agency are we talking about? And sustainability through local leadership, development, and co-creating solutions with communities they support. All right, and then probably stuff here about getting girls into coding, turning everybody into a tech nerd with these little computer labs, and empowering, engaging, and advocating for K-12 computer science teachers, so on and so forth. Right, let's look at some comments. Reaper says, keep in mind, most of this adults need to compete. Secondary education is referencing old gatekeeping methods originally from America's elite that only hired certain people to be managers or leaders. Right, so you might say, oh, you don't have a high school education, so we're not going to hire you for the job. Now, if it's the case where people look at what you could do, they don't really, or maybe even who you know, they don't care so much about your degree attainment, then it's like the educational attainment in terms of degrees, stuff like that, it's not a very useful signal for deciding and talking about gatekeeping, barriers, all that stuff. Reaper says, one could easily have way less years of school but teach more employable needed skills. Yeah, right? You could have people, and I think in American history, there's a lot of people who maybe they didn't even complete high school, but then they went on and they became a big powered industrialist and stuff. That's part of the idea of this American dream in the United States, that even if you don't come from a very privileged background with a lot of education and stuff, that people could find a way to make it big in the United States. Okay, Reaper says, this is important because we definitely wouldn't want to force upon the poor developing world the West pathological gatekeeping. Right. So if you implement a system where it's like, oh yeah, well you just need these and these and these certs in order to advance, then what you might get is, instead of rewarding like entrepreneurial good people that are capable leaders in those countries, instead you have this imposed nerd bugman bureaucracy. Would that actually make these countries better, or would that actually suppress the best of the talent in a lot of these countries? That's a good point from Reaper. Rasta Biden says, people need more literacy to navigate their education. It's confusing on purpose. In high school, I took 10 AP classes, but I'm learning that they won't help me in college at all if I want to go to med school. Yeah, so another issue too, I think, is if you're spreading yourself thin with learning all sorts of random different technical skills, just your attention, your time is finite. So learning about a whole bunch of different things and getting exhausted and tired, maybe through a bunch of administrative requirements and all this, then this could actually make people worse at getting good at what their core competency is. I'll bring up a story like from my own high school experience. There's some sort of not so grade important activities that are very important for education. So the examples I'll give are music, athletics, and art. Okay, so if you wanted to go all in like music, athletics, or art, this isn't going to help or improve your GPA beyond a certain point. right? If you're training more and more hours a day for sports, then you probably aren't going to be able to perform as well with all your academics just from time constraints, especially if you're taking a whole bunch of difficult AP classes. Now, is training and developing the discipline and doing all this stuff that would go into a sport, is that like a good formative experience for a person? I would say, yeah, definitely. It could be a very good thing. Same thing with art, same thing with music. And we'll be talking about this more, like what is education optimized for? One view of like the more classical education would be, rather than bugman technical knowledge, you have education that helps people cultivate virtue. That would be like a different thing to optimize for. Then maybe an education like that does a better job overall at making complete good human beings, versus what we have now where to succeed the most in the school, what does that mean? To become an ultra nerd. A lot of topics going on here. Reaper says, so the question is, do we need to teach 1 billion people how to program because they don't have running water? Or they maybe benefit if we taught them how to construct wells, aqueducts, plumbing, irrigation, etc. Give them basic tools, light machinery, like something to dig wells much more productively. Yes, okay, so Reaper, you hit the actual nail with the actual hammer, not the theoretical nail with the theoretical hammer. So if we're talking about actual solutions, and we'll get back into this further in the stream, these are things I give this name, this so-called stable sciences, among them like construction, and then other things like Ross DeBiden mentioned med school, just having people know, basic anatomy, first aid, stuff like this. These are all very well-established things that we've known and we've been teaching for over like 100 years. More stable sorts of skills, science, knowledge that could be passed on, that we could teach people. On the other hand, what we see with a lot of these sites, Pluralsight, Khan Academy, Skillshare, etc., is teaching people all these like nerd skills, which is basically like how to operate the machinery of this very rocky system that's being pushed really, really fast all around the world. And it's clear how if you're a big company or something that you might want people trained in these areas. But if we look at what might actually be useful and sustainable for a lot of people in a community to learn, then it would be a lot of these other things. And I know our friend Reaper here, he's a food connoisseur. So I'm actually going to let's add cooking and food prep to our list here. Because I think it goes without saying, if you're good at cooking and food prep, stuff like that, what better way is there to have people excited to visit you, to learn from you, to partake in what you have to offer? If you're a good cook, all the people want to visit your house and hang out with you. If you're a good JavaScript coder, maybe they want you to answer their questions, and then they want to ignore you and not hear from you for the entire weekend. So funny bit there. All right, let's just really quick look over these last 3 links. We don't have to go in depth as we did exploring through the Pluralsight, but I just want to emphasize, we talk about reskilling. What are the skills that are for the 21st century and all of that? Are they actually useful things to know, or are they more sorts of skills and stuff that would be beneficial for an employer that wants people to train themselves for free, so that you just pick at them and you have workers from anywhere, from everywhere, that are dependent on you? Because mind you, with a lot of these tech skill stuff, as opposed to something like cooking, food prep, digging a well, whatever, these skills will serve you directly, like if you have your own property, things like that. Whereas a lot of the tech type skills, if you're detached from these big organizations, then these skills are a lot less useful to you, because to be able to actually apply and use those skills, oftentimes it's dependent on you being yoked to one of these organizations in some sense. So let's take a look here at Khan Academy. So we got some dude here with some funny shapes that look like planetary this and that. floating around him. All right, so maybe they should hire me to do their photo edits. Maybe I could make some more engaging images, but we'll give Khan Academy a pass on the aesthetic checks. I could put more effort into my clickbait thumbnails for this channel as well. Alright, so why Khan Academy works. Okay, so just a couple notes here. This stuff, personalized learning. Oftentimes what this means is like, instead of saying everybody has to know what's in such and such textbook, right? It's doing all this like machine learning and optimization sort of stuff to say like, oh, you performed below this digit on this metric. Okay, so let us give you 10 more exercises in that area to reinforce your learning, all sorts of this. These sorts of platforms, that is what the peak of educational software is now. It's like Pavlovian dogs 4.0, where they want to sort of gamify and then drill you on the things that you don't perform well according to some metric, and they want to just pound that on you until you do better in the metric. So I'm not saying that this approach is inherently bad, but when you see this sort of word like personalized learning, that's basically what it is. Like, oh yeah, this person, their Spanish, their vocabulary is good, but they sometimes mess up on conjugated verbs. So let's feed them, all these conjugating verb exercises until they could properly conjugate verbs. That's the idea. And just as a meta note, I'll point out that so while I think that there's nothing wrong with this approach, in terms of I'm not saying it's evil or something, it could be very efficient. I think that one other valuable skill that a lot of people should develop, if you want to be a person that teaches yourself stuff, you want to be an autodidact, is if you could identify your own weaknesses and then drill yourself, find what you're not so good at, and then improve on those areas yourself, rather than having some AI coach do that, then this is an invaluable skill for you to be able to teach stuff to yourself, to learn things. And also, too, if you want to coach and help other people, if you're able to say like, oh yeah, it looks like I could see this person's having a hard time on this, and I had that same experience, so I know what they're going through. Now I have a program to help them work through that, right? So why does some stupid AI thing have to do that? Why can't people be the vector by which personalized learning happens? And I think inherently we all recognize that this is the case. This is why, especially as people get more wealthy, they will hire like tutors and stuff for their kids, right? Because there's nothing beats like a personal coach that could guide you through and get you up to speed really fast. There's no substitute for that. And if you don't have that, then oftentimes you yourself, especially if you know what you want, you could be the best coach for yourself. All right. Trusted content created by experts. Khan Academy's library of trusted, standards-aligned practice and lessons cover math K through 12, the early college grammar, science, history, AP, SAT, and more. It's all free for learners and teachers. Yeah. So freely indoctrinate yourself with whatever it is that the establishment wants you to learn. It's trusted, so no naughty content here. Don't worry. You're not going to learn any misinformation from Khan Academy. And finally, look, tools to empower teachers. What does that mean? With Khan Academy, teachers can identify gaps in their students' understanding, tailor instruction, and meet the needs of every student. And the little icon here is a graph. So what does that mean? Basically, creepy tools to spy on students while they're learning. So the teacher probably has some big dashboard, with all these little metrics. Oh, it looks like the students are so good at this and that. So we could press the button and drill them more on that. That's a lot of what this future of education stuff is all about. All right. Okay, Reaper making some more notes about useful stuff to teach people in less developed countries. He says, right, so in developed world, a ton of food is wasted after it gets to the grocery store, i.e. at grocery and in people's houses. In developing world, a ton of food is wasted in field and on the way to the market. Thus changing this on a local level with food preservation or refrigeration methods would be very important. Right, so if you make available certain technologies certain tools that aren't so complicated to understand from a user level, that might be the sort of valuable infrastructure that could really help people out. Maybe even a community, you just buy them a truck, right? Just buying a community a truck could be ultra useful for all sorts of stuff. Reaper says, there are all kinds of no power temperature control devices that have just been built just for this problem in the developing world. Yeah, so if you have good technology and stuff, maybe even making like a storehouse with some ice boxes, stuff like that. It might not even take very much power, but you dig it down in the earth. I don't know how these things are done. Then such a thing could be a very sustainable, useful thing if you're actually interested in helping these communities, not just wiring them up to be more Bugman nerds. Reaper says, one could also see training people to go to villages and create windmills that power refrigerators, etc. Might be useful. Yeah, so I think in any case, like, if there actually are jobs and opportunities available, say like, we're going to add in this electric infrastructure, so we need some electricians and stuff. There's something different about actually hiring people and paying them to do a particular type of work than just generic training. So one of the reasons I'm going kind of hard on this reskilling stuff is because, people's time, with your time, you could make money, you could develop yourself, you could do all sorts of things with your time. So if you're really pushing people to spend their energy and effort reskilling, and it doesn't actually provide real tangible benefits for them in their life, then I think that's it's like stealing in a way, stealing these people's time and attention, abusing their trust. Whereas on the other hand, if you actually provided them some jobs, like you say, we'll hire you to set up these windmills, hiring someone to set up a windmill is different from, providing like free training for them to learn about green energy and stuff, and then maybe nothing comes of it besides they wasted their time. Those are two different things, in my opinion. Okay, Ross Biden says, CCP, so Chinese Communist Party, ban tutors, minus 20 social credit. Yeah, so then people go overboard with the tutor stuff. South Korea did this as well. Korea number one, right? But China followed and did something similar. And then Ross Biden says, bro, I know you're clowning on Khan Academy personalized learning, but we literally had to use the application in middle school, and teachers were dogging me for not getting 100% in the SAT preps. Oh man, I'm sorry. That's these digital systems. I did a little when I was in university. There was a system I had to do. For example, it's called Mastering Chemistry was one of them, where they had these chemistry problems, and then you had to solve them. And the online homework, right? You had to do these digital online homework things, and then for the teacher, it's really easy because they're like, oh yeah, just do the mastering chemistry problems, and you got to get above this certain score. And then like if you don't do well on a test or something, then it's like, well, you had the tools, you should have practiced more, you should have done more mastering chemistry. But yeah, I hated all this stuff. It's terrible. It's like torture. So I feel sorry for Ross Biden. That's tough that you had to drill and do SAT studying. Let me tell you, back in the boomer days, you used to be considered kind of a nerd if you actually studied for SAT. Now it's totally normal to study for SAT. Like I took a SAT class in my privileged suburban background. But back in the day, it was just like, yeah, everyone just takes a standardized test and no one studied for it. But then what you had is with people trying to be more competitive, get into these big universities and stuff, that people would actually start to study for these things, and then it's kind of like an escalation. It's an academic arms race. Let's look at an arms race. So this idea of the arms race, let's look at what this says. An arms race occurs when two or more groups compete and increases in military personnel and material. It consists of a competition between two or more states that have superior armed forces, a competition concerning production of weapons with the military, blah, blah, blah. So it's an academics arm race, and that, oh no, that guy has this SAT score, I need to beat his SAT score. So before you know it, instead of everyone just having a nice chill, relaxed summer where you do some work, but also too you just enjoy the outdoors, meet up with friends, do other useful human stuff. Instead of that, then you just have a bunch of nerds at each other's neck to see who could get the best number on the math test. So that's the sort of academics arms race that we're seeing. And Rostin Biden, our resident Zoomer here, is saying that he's been experiencing that with SAT prep. Oof. Reaper says, Khan Academy used in public schools. I'll see in the chat section comments, Rostin Biden probably could answer to that question. Okay, so then let's just look really quick here at the remaining 2 links. So we saw Pluralsight, Khan Academy. Let's look at Skillshare. So here at their little tagline, experience inspiring discovery through creativity, and then some chick doing some Instagram sign looking painting thing, looking at a tablet. So just one thing to highlight, a lot of the nature of the so-called skills that these things train is all this digital type stuff. They want to train you with skills to produce a particular sort of product. It's not like virtue. Virtue is useful everywhere. If you're able to be patient, if you're able to, be strong, courageous, stand up for what's true, even if it's unpopular with the people around you. No. This is about marketing, optimization, helping out the establishment. So let's see at Skillshare. What did they do? What did they empower? They empowered members to get inspired. So what does inspired mean? Like, I could be famous on Instagram, learn new skills. Like, I could edit my video to optimize for the YouTube algorithm and make discoveries. Oh man, if I make this sort of clickbait keyword, could boost my video even more. Maybe I should sign up for Skillshare. I could do a little bit better on my promo here. To be honest, I digress. Let's look back at what they're trying to do. Okay, they empowered teachers to share expertise, earn money, and give back. So share expertise, basically, make courses, earn money, so probably get paid for the courses, and give back. This is starting to sound a little bit like a pyramid scheme. It's like, oh yeah, I benefited from this pyramid scheme, so now I need to recruit other people and tell them to do the same thing. Very interesting. And then we empower employees to be curious. So think about more ways to earn money for your company, not thinking about tinfoil hat things, and other interesting topics we talk about on Alan's stream. Nope. Don't be curious about those things. Only be curious about what we tell you to be curious about. Make an impact. All right, and live a full life. So these are rather ill-defined, but we need to have 3 things with a period, so it's fitting within the structure of the web page. So maybe that's the main reason those are there. And then we have a quote, "The thing I thought couldn't be possible a year or 2 ago is actually happening." All right, Mimi. Oh no, it's a video. I don't want to watch a video. I want to read an article. I don't want to get copyright stricken on YouTube. So Skillshare. What do you guys do? Can we look at what sort of courses are available? Can I see? Browse. Alright, so what sort of skills do they have here? Animation, creative writing, film and video, fine art, graphic design, illustration, music, photography, UI, UX design, web development. So basically just like old nerd stuff building up the internet. This isn't like build a well, do sustainable organic farming for your community, stuff like that. Thrive, lifestyle, productivity. So not to say that these skills are useless. I mean, obviously you could make a living and do a lot with these skills, but just to say, like, the sort of the nature of the skills for the future that they're trying to teach you here are skills for doing a particular type of thing, such as let's just say you're an influencer. You want to be a YouTube e-celeb. So if you have some people to do animation, creative writing for scripts for your video, some cool logos, stuff like that. And then you also have a website, and then you have business analytics, so you could sell your merch, leadership and management, like you own your own brand, lifestyle product. So the nature of this sort of training, these sorts of skills, are to encourage people to do a particular sort of thing, which I would argue in many cases is kind of pyramid scheming. But those are the skills of the future. So that's that. All right, finally, let's look at this last example of brilliant here. Couple comments. Reaper says, Californian universities just banned SAT. He says, Ross Biden stopped studying and go to school in California. Yeah, I heard about this too, how just too much trouble with these standardized tests. So if we aren't even putting weight on them, we aren't even looking at them that much anymore, then maybe just get rid of them entirely. That would be a rare example in which, hey, it's like at least you're being honest and being upfront about how it's like, oh, we don't want people gaming these metrics. Let's just get rid of this. Yeah, you could reclaim your summer vacation. Maybe that's a good thing. Ross Biden says SAT up equals college money up. Yeah, I think taking the SAT is not that much, right? It's like $100. Oh, we're joined by another visitor. Yagan says, yo, what's up, Yagan? Good to see you. All right, let's last look at Brilliant. Does Brilliant teach us useful real-world things, or do they teach us to be more bugmen? Let's see what Brilliant teaches us. Brilliant. All right, so as our example, geometry. It shows some triangles and squares and stuff. All right, the establishment loves them. Got New York Times, Atlantic, The Guardian, NPR, Business Insider, Wired. If these people like them, they must be legit, right? Let's take a look. Master essential skills. Build confidence with hands-on learning. Like, if your hands are like digital, is this a hands-on stream, guys? I'm putting my hands up to the camera. Do we just make a hands-on stream? What do you mean by hands-on? Hands on the keyboard? Hands on the mouse? What do you guys mean? You'll get to see concepts visually, interact with key ideas, solve challenging problems that get you to really think. I'm thinking. Stress less, learn better, enjoy fun storytelling, guided problem solving, and making lots of mistakes while playing. So here we see the gamification stuff. One of the key appeals of this service is like you get to learn without it even feeling like it's a struggle, more than just like a little fun game. So on Brilliant, your natural curiosity will drive you. So just you sit there and you wonder about triangles and squares, and your mind gets blown, as opposed to a threat of a test. So it's not like my teacher will fail me. Instead, it's like I'm intrigued about how triangles fit together, and thereby that is their way to say how this service works. And it's probably a pretty good, this animation and stuff looks slick. So if you're trying to learn geometry basics, stuff like that, it probably is a pretty good service. Yagan says, assault, hands off me. All right. I'll do the whoa, bro. Okay, hands off. Reaper says, the trouble was there's a bunch of people to get high scores on the game, and then people got angry that other people didn't get on the high score list. Right, so one question to ask is, with standardized tests and stuff, the people who are requiring these things, that want these things, let's say you're trying to fill employees in a position, what is it that you actually want as like a government or a company? For example, as a government, you might not actually want the most smart, intelligent people. Instead, what might be more valuable is you just want yes men that are good at checking the boxes, signing the right lines, and doing stuff, as opposed to somebody who like looks at it and says like, wait a minute, I'm not hired to audit you, but this looks like a bunch of bull. You don't want that person. Perhaps if you're trying to recruit people for government, if what you want to happen is just for the system to be oiled and to proceed in the way you want. Yagan says, and what that does is you learn a bit of the basics, and then you plateau and never learn anything again. Let's see. Reaper says, here's an idea. Instead of foistering these sites on poor, impoverished people, why not replace our inefficient school system in the U.S. and foist this stuff on American students? Ross Biden, I think he's America. He could tell us about to what extent this stuff is being pushed on American students. And, replying to what Yagan is saying, I think that one issue with a lot of this so-called STEM education stuff is they're like, here, kids, have a bunch of concepts, learn a bunch about, triangles and stuff. And then the question is, what could you actually do with it? So, like, for example, I'll use music. If you start to play music, like you can see my guitar in the background, then there isn't a question about, like, what do I do with more music knowledge? It's like, obviously, you could go play your instrument. You could make new sounds. There's no question about how does this build off anything. But you learn about a bunch of triangles and stuff, and then, you aren't able to go out and build bridges, or the only way in which you could go out and build more bridges is to take out a bunch of debt and go to, like, 4 years of more school or whatever. Then a lot of the times with these skills, this knowledge that they give you, the problem is that really you can't actually use it. It's not very useful for you to do anything except for like graphic design on your computer or something, unless you continue and dig in deeper and deeper and deeper into that sort of education. But for a lot of the jobs that you might actually end up working, it isn't immediately useful, and probably like 90% of it like won't be useful whatsoever. So yeah, here, brilliant, the site Math and Science, that seems to be their new stuff, like what software development, computer science, algorithms, programming with Python, data structures, neural networks, and computational biology. Interesting choice of topics there. Science. And even just like, look, okay, so if this is their science course, what are their basics? Scientific thinking. So maybe that's about the scientific method. I don't know exactly. Classical mechanics, electricity and magnetism. But then you jump into this stuff like special relativity, quantum objects, quantum computing. Even like computational biology. Okay, the only way in which you're even going to be touching these things and using these things in your normal life, like one cannot tinker with computational biology. Like, I'm sorry, you could go on GitHub maybe and like download some software, try to play with simulations and stuff. But this wouldn't be like, in my garage, I'm going to fool around, connect some batteries and stuff, and try to make like a cool electronic sign or something, or like, tweak this bicycle and this and that way. It's not the same sort of hands-on direct approach to do things like, does anyone here have like a quantum computer that I could mess around with? Let me know. Maybe what would you even do on a quantum computer? Like play Doom? Is that what you would do on a quantum computer? Play Doom? I don't know. All right. And then here, so one of the ways that they market a lot of this stuff is to say, right, master, don't memorize, solve problems. So they're kind of creating this like straw man, which is to say, like so-called traditional way of learning is just like being stupid and memorizing stuff. But here it's different because we teach you to solve problems. But in reality, like learning anything, even if it's memorizing, like to memorize something, that would be a sort of problem that you have to learn to solve. Like you could get better at memorizing stuff. A lot of people, especially in this century, like me included, I'll say I'm not actually very good at memorizing stuff. But if I trained and I work at it, I could get better at memorizing things. And by memorizing things, then I could master certain bodies of knowledge. But here you get them kind of making some false dichotomy between like, brainless, mindless memorizing and being like a smart, mathy person or whatever. Okay, here, build STEM intuition, so become good at being a Borg. And then some struggle required. The path to excellence is simple, but not easy. Anyone can succeed in STEM, but some struggle is required. So it's like, yeah, it is going to require some effort. So in this sense, not false advertising. Like, obviously, if you want to understand STEM stuff, you got to invest some brain power. but they're implying that with their method of critical thinking and stuff, it won't be boring because you won't just be sitting there mindlessly memorizing stuff, but instead by solving their little math puzzles and stuff, you develop their intuition and you become a big brain person. So that's what this Brilliant is about. It's like, how do you become an alpha bug man? Basically, if you succeed at doing all the stuff on Brilliant, then you could become an alpha bug man, ready to be of very good service to the technocratic overlords. Learn to think like a scientist. Learn to think like a technocratic oligarch. Just kidding. If you're the technocratic oligarch, you don't actually do this stuff. Instead, you read like literature, philosophy, that sort of stuff, and then you make a bunch of nerds do brilliant.org, and you just control them and manipulate them. That's what you really do as a technocratic oligarch. But don't tell them that I gave away that spoiler for how they do what they do. All right. So, just read my two little summary paragraphs here. Look at the sort of stuff they have you learn. Bugman tooling for the 21st century. Contrast technology-focused education with the cultivation of virtue. So I just bring up cultivation of virtue as like an example of a different educational model that people have used in the past. Many of the goals of technological development are to make less virtue necessary to achieve particular results. And why would you do this? Is it to free up time for leisure? Like, why would you have such a focus on tech? What's the purpose? One of the results of this is that the nature of work many of us find ourselves in is developing and creating elaborate copes. So these just various tricks, technological stuff, learning what megacorps and governments tell us to do, and destroying our bodies through unnatural workflows, schedules, etc. So instead of just saying let's learn about agriculture, dig a well, dig some ditches, learn to work together as a team, how to relate to people, stuff like that. So actually useful, good things to know. Instead, it's like, how do I conform and become like a maximum bug man so that I could be governed by computers and operate in the technological society? That is what a lot of STEM education type stuff is fitting you and I to do. Right, having something like Amazon Web Services as a skill amounts to training yourself to be useful to a megacorp. Of course, this can be good for getting paid. So that's to say, if anybody's taking one of these things, I won't be like, oh, quit being a nerd, don't take it. Like, obviously, there's a lot of reason why these services are popular and why somebody might do it, and why I might even take training on these. I'm not saying don't do it. But it is no wonder that beyond this reason, so getting paid, people aren't actually excited to use their time and effort to optimize themselves for the technological society. And if you don't know what I mean by the technological society, check out my previous streams and look at this book by French author Jacques Ellul, published in French in 1954, but available for you to read online free in English if you do a quick search. Cool. So going off some comments, like Reaper suggested, you want to help India or Africa, some place that's not as developed as the United States. What might actually be some useful things for people to learn? So these are what I call the so-called stable sciences, and we'll talk a bit. Let me just read the comments. So Reaper says, Ross gets elite grades. Oh, congrats. You are an alpha bogman. Rasta is exactly the kind of person that anti-high scorers are trying to pull down and prevent from excelling. Ooh, you've been flattered by our resident skeleton. Yogin says, I want to learn to think like a gold medal Olympic athlete. Maybe even more so than an Olympic athlete, because even an Olympic athlete, this goes into the technological society stuff. You could look at how a pro athlete, they optimize themselves for a particular sort of competition. So if let's just say you're a pro cyclist, you're a pro marathon runner, your body actually might be quite fragile. So of course you could do a really good job like doing the one competition that you're training for. But maybe we should follow the advice of Joe Rogan, Bro Jogan instead, and train ourselves to be a mixed martial arts champion. Maybe that would be the better sort of build to prepare ourselves for. So all sorts of different challenges, whether it's on your feet, groundwork, whatever, that sort of person is much more robust, whereas an Olympic athlete, they might optimize themselves for a particular sport, and in doing so actually make themselves quite delicate. Actually. All right, returning. Stable sciences. So, I kind of threw some shade at these like new skilling sites, but I want to emphasize that I'm not like a knowledge nihilist. I'm not saying there's nothing to know or anything like that. Rather, practically, when we're thinking about stuff to learn, instead, we could look and say, what sort of bodies of knowledge are more stable? What are some good things that we could learn, good ways in which we could cultivate ourselves that could be useful in many, many different areas, wherever we might find ourselves. Excuse me. So, as some examples I gave here, where are some areas there's a real accumulation of knowledge? And one heuristic or mental shortcut to think about this is kind of book from a long time ago. So just pick a number, 100 plus years ago, whatever. Some given area be useful to you today. If the answer is yes, then chances are you're coming across a field where the science is indeed settled. So you could actually build up and develop knowledge in an area as opposed to just like trying to learn this cutting edge this cutting edge that, trying to build a foundation on sand. You could build up something that's more stable. And I want to bring up one person I was reading where I started to think about this idea was this guy, Nassim Nicholas Taleb. He's this Lebanese man. He wrote this book, Skin in the Game, and this other book, Black Swan. Anyways, he spends a lot of time dabbing on a lot of people. I don't know if that's a good approach to better understanding stuff. But in any case, I found reading a lot of his work was useful. And one of the things that he was emphasizing in various works that he did was how looking at time-tested, stable, robust solutions could be a helpful way in order to do better, basically. As opposed to trying to optimize, do the science way to get the biggest number, big brain number go up. Instead, to say maybe people that are writing from 100 plus years ago, it's not that they're like stupid and dumb and their science is so much better and superior now. Rather, when you read people from the past, consider like maybe there's a reason this work survived. Maybe there's a reason why people are saying these things, and not assume that someone's an idiot because they don't assume the Earth is round, right? Instead, take the time to read carefully what different people have to say. So this fellow, Nassim Nicholas Taleb, he was helpful for me to learn about a lot of this stuff, and that's why I bring him up. Anyways, looking at different areas, so stuff like music. Of course, you could listen to a lot of classical music today, music written hundreds of years ago, and you could see how throughout history, even within one tradition like Western classical music, how you have exploration, progression, exploring lots of different areas of music, whether it has to do with tone, rhythm, instrumentation, all of this. There is a real body of stuff that you could actually know about, master, and on your own instrument of choice, right, be able to demonstrate principles, and so on and so forth. So a real development, accumulation of knowledge. Cooking, food prep, art, you could say something like linear perspective, technique to make close objects look big, further objects that look smaller. How do you explain this? How do you create this effect? Studying artistic techniques, all these things you could learn, these very stable bodies of knowledge. And I even add here construction. So I've talked with some people that have worked doing stuff like framing of houses, things like this. And from what I hear, a lot of methods that are used in construction and stuff, they've actually been remarkably stable, consistent over the years. Probably other fields like trucker. If you talk with some truckers, is trucking really much different now than it was like 50 years ago? I don't know, but if you talk with a trucker that's been doing it for a while, they'd probably be able to tell you about their experience doing that. And then I have some example of things here that are perhaps a little bit less stable, established than the things I mentioned above here in this list. But still, I would say are probably more stable than a lot of the stuff that they're really encouraging people to learn through things like Pluralsight, Khan Academy, and all that stuff. Languages like Spanish, people have been speaking Spanish. It's been pretty stable for at least, 200 years or so. So a bunch of languages, of course, Latin and Greek, these ones go way back. People have been studying those for even longer. Some mathematics. So, of course, arithmetic, that sort of stuff. And mathematics, it's stable in that it's all based on axioms and things. You could prove stuff. So it is a stable body of knowledge. Though we will get into the topic of how useful a lot of higher math especially is. And then here, as maybe a subset of math, is kind of like computer science. So we might be entering into an interesting time where, like, a lot of computing stuff, I think, really came to the computer market. Reaper knows about this, I know, 60s and 70s and stuff. But, like, the data structures, a lot of stuff that we know about computer science, it's been around for at least 50, 60 years. In that sense, it would be more stable. Like, I would say it would probably be better to learn more about fundamentals of computer science than if you were like a high school grad to like rush out and try to say like, I'm going to learn, AI and quantum computing. It's like, no, it would actually probably be better if you stuck to and learned your computer science fundamentals and some core technologies that are used everywhere now. So a famous example of that is the SQL language. So if you're just like trying to get a computer job just starting, if you're really good at SQL, so just pulling data out of tables and stuff, this would actually probably be a pretty good area to know really well. Not only will you learn a lot about computers generally and data and the nuts and bolts of how stuff is put together, but being good at SQL and doing this sort of stuff, I think continues to be a pretty high demand sort of thing. All right. Let's talk about math briefly. Just as a note, so here I would say in practice, so I've took up math through like linear algebra, calculus, and I've studied a bunch of statistics. I will actually say from my own experience, math has been surprisingly useless to me. And that is one of the reasons I'm throwing a little bit of shade at like the stuff they're teaching on Pluralsight, Khan Academy, Skillshare, and Brilliant. Like, one of the reasons people will learn a bunch of math is because they want to have like a high-paying job. So some sort of job might say like, oh yeah, we want you to have this degree where you use such and such math. But you go and you look at like how is it that people actually make a bunch of money and stuff. Like, one of the ways people make a bunch of money, and I learned a little bit about this from the fellow Nassim Nicholas Taleb I talked about here, is they're doing like just deals and trades. So if you're like flipping houses, trading stocks, doing all sorts of stuff like this, you don't have to be like what you call a quant or a technical trader or anything. If you just have a basically good intuition or idea about what you could do, then you could totally succeed in these areas without crunching a bunch of numbers. It's not like the more math you know, the better at trading stocks you become. Now, on the other hand, the more math and stuff you're proficient in and stuff, then that might lead to you being able to get a job such as being a actuary. I think to be one of these people, you're going to need a bunch of statistics knowledge. So like, yeah, what's an actuary? Median pay, $111,000 per year. It's a pretty good pay. What do? They use mathematics, statistics, and financial theory to analyze the financial costs of risk and uncertainty. So to be one of these people, you're going to have to know a bunch of math. Now, those people get paid a lot, like salary, a job. But, there's a lot of people that probably make more money than actuaries and don't use any math at all. For example, if you're a successful businessman doing a bunch of trades and stuff, then you could do well and not do all that nerd stuff. So, like for me, I've never been like considered myself like bad at math. I've never been like a top math student, but I've been actually pretty okay at math. And then I just found like the more I studied it, I was like, what was the point of that? Like it was hard. I guess it was like doing push-ups for my brain or something. But I've actually been a bit surprised at how useless in terms of actual application for my daily life math has been beyond just basic algebra and stuff. On the other hand, studying other things, for example, if you study music, cooking, art, anatomy, and construction, then these things could be ultra useful for you in your personal life. For example, you could fix up stuff in your home. Your friend is reckless. They break their arm. You might be able to do some first aid, help out your friend. Of course, art, you could make greeting cards for your friends and family. That's cool. Cooking, food prep, self-explanatory, how that could bring great joy to the world. And music, for your own personal enjoyment, just playing music by yourself, and of course meeting people, making friends and stuff. So all these things useful for you and for others in ways I don't even really need to elaborate on explain about. Whereas on the other hand, beyond basic algebras and stuff, math, in my personal experience, has been surprisingly useless. So that's just my take on it. If you're studying math, I'm not saying quit doing it and don't study math, but right, do have a goal. If you are studying math and trying to figure out what to do with it, trying to become an actuary or something, clearly it'll be required, to do a bunch of that stuff. But if you're just trying to like learn math to get some special insight to hack the world or something, I would say, dude, it's not going to work. I wouldn't recommend going down that path. Yagan says, I return. Why are we talking about Taleb? And I said, I was talking about Taleb because he was one of the reasons why I got, like, you could say I got black-pilled on math or being like a quant, a nerd. I stopped looking at a bunch of numbers and stuff, concluding that there's other things that would be more useful. All right. Okay, so that does it for the main content of this stream, reskilling for the 21st century. Just looking at what are the sort of skills that people are encouraged to get, and then really what are some actual skills that might actually be more useful to get, and why is that so? So with this being said, I'll transition into the ending part of this stream, today in the news. So let's look at the news and study what's going on a bit. So, what's happening in our Novus Ordo Seclorum? We have here a story. Oh, and by the way, I was getting these stories once again from Firefox New Tab. This Firefox New Tab is a fountain of stories where you're like, why would they want people to think about this topic of all things? So, for whatever reason, Firefox has been a pretty, with a pocket service, they've been a useful fountain of just like, what type surprising stories. So let's look at what they're talking about. All right, Peloton is stuck, just like the rest of us. Ooh, are we stuck? People want the company to be a pandemic crystal ball. It's not. And then they show a Peloton exercise bike in a crystal ball bubble thing. What's this about? Then we have an author having fun with some rhetoric. It was the best of Pelotimes. It was the worst of Pelotimes. Playing on the word Peloton. And then this goes to talk about how the Peloton stock has been quite a roller coaster, going up, and then it took a very dramatic drop, I think about 70%. And then here, we'll just highlight some quotes. The question that people are trying to sort out about Peloton is, At its most basic level, the biggest unanswered question of the past year and a half: are things ever getting back to normal again, or what? So the main thing that Peloton, right? Why did people invest in Peloton? Well, it's like, if we're gonna all be stuck at home during a health crisis, then might as well get a fancy exercise bike to get better fitness and to enjoy using the Peloton. But if we're going to get out of all these crises, then maybe companies like Peloton and stuff won't be as useful, because then people could just, go outside and exercise and stuff like that. So this article is just talking about how, people are confused. They're going up and down their evaluation of stuff because they are being shocked in a way by being uncertain about what's going to happen with lockdowns and all of that. My own personal view is that we could expect at least a couple more years of top-down efforts at lockdown stuff. So you might see like people around you locally not caring, going around, whatever. But I think that as the quote goes, never let a good crisis be put to waste. So I don't think that we could expect stuff to let up officially, at least within the next couple years. And this is all just me speculating my opinion, but this is what I think. And I think that stuff like Peloton specifically, the way in which a stock like this might go up is, let's say, like some big company gets some contract with Peloton. So let's suppose like Amazon signs some deal with Peloton saying, we're giving all of our customers access to these Peloton bike gyms that they could use after work. And actually we're incentivizing them. If they ride the Peloton bike for 30 minutes after work, then we'll give them a $20 bonus per day or something. I think if deals like that come through, just like you might have government or someone purchase a bunch of electric cars, then I think that companies like Peloton and stuff could make a bunch of money. But my own personal view is that, like, in terms of actual people's demand for stuff like that, it isn't so great. People would much rather exercise in just more normal, natural ways. But if they're forced to, basically by institutional constraints, stuff like that, then the value of these things could go up a whole lot. So that's just my personal take on these, not financial advice. But using these thoughts, this like stuff I think about when I make investment decisions and stuff, try to make an extra buck or two during these turbulent times with the ebbs and flow of the dollar bills and all that. All right, next. A story. IQ tests can't measure it, but cognitive flexibility is key to learning and creativity. What's this about? Subheading. Are you good at changing perspectives? If so, it may benefit you in more ways than you imagine. So by the site, The Conversation. And then the icon of smart guy for our century, our times. It's Albert Einstein. Here's him being all quirky with some music. And then it's saying like, blah, blah, blah. IQ isn't everything, but if you're cognitively flexible, like here, cognitively flexibility have affected how people coped with pandemic lockdown, which produced new challenges around work and schooling, blah, blah, blah. So if you're willing to handle all these waves of new stuff that's being thrown at you, you aren't fixed in what you're doing, then that could be beneficial. Now, this is directly related to this whole topic of reskilling. So if you're a type of person and you aren't like, you don't walk in and say like, I am only a C++ programmer, I just program C++, that's what I do. If instead you're just like, I kind of do what is in demand, I'll reskill if I have to, and so on and so forth, then obviously from a governance perspective, it would be very useful to have people that are willing to try out, to do new stuff, to adapt, whatever, because you're going to be creating a lot of new positions, a lot of new jobs, that basically have these like new made up skills. And if you have people that are willing to fulfill those roles, then that would be helpful to you. So to tell people, yes, you need to be cognitively flexible, then that's a clear way to say basically forget about job security or mastering a skill or something. Instead, we want to constantly gaslight you and make you into a bug man that bends to our every whim. It's a useful message to send to people from a controller perspective. All right. Next story. Psychology. Success bombing is the awkward friendship issue that no one talks about. Oh, what's that about? Success bombing is a symptom of our increasingly narcissistic culture, and it's having a negative impact on friendship. Okay, what's this about? We've all got that one friend in our lives who constantly blows up our WhatsApp chat with endless stories about their own success. And if you don't, there's every chance it's you. From long missives about the myriad chores they've ticked off over the weekend to, yes, really, a photograph of their salary dip after an eye-watering pay raise. It's all this blah, 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 blah. So, oh, and then we got some nice corporate art here with some blank speech bubbles. So, in an article like this, let's just look at what they're trying to do. So, they present a phenomenon. They're saying like, oh, everybody knows someone that does this. And if you don't, it's probably you. I would say that's not the case. You know, it depends who you're talking to, depending what circles you're in. But I'm sure a lot of people, they do experience this sort of stuff. And then, right, clearly if you're bragging and stuff, it could be off-putting to other people. And then it's talking about how to cope. So somebody's like saying how they're successful. It's making you feel bad. It's making you feel inferior. What are they telling you to do? Try changing the subject. Oh, you know, you're really successful, but it's a nice day outside. Help them understand that their social status is not the be-all and end-all of life. Oh, yeah? You know, you have a good job, but I'm enlightened. I don't know. Don't let them hog the spotlight. Butt in and make it about you too. Oh yeah? Well, did you win 5 games in a row of League of Legends last night? So yeah, you got a raise, but you know, I got more ELO points. I'm rising up in solo queue. And humor them by listening, but don't fall over their every word and applaud something that doesn't warrant it. And then they have some mindful person here in a bubble with people with megaphones all around. I mean, basically, I don't think that this is very good advice. You know, maybe if someone just keeps on talking about their success, you don't have to give them attention. But all these things like trying to change the subject and all of this, like, dude, that's just showing that you're coping and that you're butthurt, you know. Someone's doing better than you. You could be happy for their success and stuff, but you don't have to try to be this like bubble person with all these people in a megaphone. Just be like, oh yeah, good for you. And you know, they already have the reward. They already got the raise and stuff. What does it matter for you? You could be like, all right, but I'm going to go watch Alan stream. You could come and join me in Alan stream instead. You don't have to do all these lame copes that are presented here. Better things to do with your time. All right. And then finally, let's end with a really big brain topic here. What is math? So in this stream, I was talking about how math has been surprisingly not useful to me. Then in a Firefox new tab, they put up a story like this, what is math? I don't even think I searched anything. I was just, writing Vim. So I don't know if Vim has like trackers where they were like, this guy's asking big philosophical questions about math and its utility. So let's seed him a story about what is math. I think actually the story was just organically up there. So that's pretty interesting. Anyways, let's see what the story is about. A teenager asked the age-old question on TikTok, creating a viral backlash. And then a thoughtful scientific debate. What is math? What kind of backlash would you get if you're like, what is math? Are you post-truth? You're asking what is math? You're challenging the facts. I don't know. So let's see what the story is about. It all started with an innocuous TikTok video posted by a high school student named Gracie Cunningham applying makeup while speaking on the camera. So I'll imitate applying makeup. Hey guys, what is math? She added, I know it's real because we all learn it in school, but who came up with this concept? Pythagoras, she muses, didn't even have plumbing, and he was like, let me worry about y equals mx plus b. So I'm not recommending this article as a good article or anything. But just like exploring this question I had about the utility of math, math, you're talking about like things that aren't tangible, they aren't concrete, but they have a reality and like logics and stuff. You're talking about these abstract structures. I'm not going to go into number theory and all that stuff. But I think it's a non-stupid question to ask, what is math? And more importantly, maybe like, is it in my interest to learn more math? Why are so many people telling me to care about math? I think that is a good question. And here, like I pulled up too, this article here, Mathematic Notation, Past and Future. And I bring this up to say that currently too, what we think of as math, right, just because we call something math and they had math for centuries and centuries, does that mean that all the math we've been learning is the same? Like, of course not. So people come up with math, equations, formulas, and all sorts of stuff in order to model particular problems. So, for example, it's easy to see how, geometry and that sort of stuff could be practical for, like, building, for cutting tile, for doing things like that. Like, obviously, geometry could be useful in those ways. But then we look at other sorts of maths and stuff that you might have to learn, and you could ask, like, what is the utility? Why did people come up with these theoretical structures in order to sort out and solve what sorts of problems? All right, Yoggin says, okay, so talking about the psychological coping about people, social media bragging about their success. What's hard is when they are just way more successful than you in all the areas you care about. This is another NN Taleb talking point. Be Roman, not Greek. All right, I don't know about the Roman Greek part, but yeah, I mean, I think on social media too, not just career stuff, but like for example, we could talk about like life events. So maybe like somebody posts a lot of pictures that shows like, oh, here's me and my family, and we're so happy, and stuff like that. Then this might make a lot of people feel bad if they too would like something like that, but they haven't obtained it. I don't know. I think my approach is the same way, which is to say, ask why would you show something to somebody? So I could just be happy for them. It's like, if truly you all are doing well, then hey, good for you. You already have your reward. But if someone's trying to project an image of something, like trying to convince everybody that, hey, look, I have a happy family or something, and then you could ask the question. It's like, are you trying to convince yourself that? Is that why you're showing me these images? So, of course, I'm not wishing ill will on you or anything. I hope the best for you. But are you showing this picture because you want other people to be jealous, envious? Like, what is the point of what you're doing? Generally, like, just, you don't have to assume ulterior motives of anything about people. But, if you see a pattern where someone's persistently putting out, like, some sort of content, then it's like, okay, clearly, it's not like you're just sharing your happiness or something with everybody else. It seems like you are dealing with some, problem that you yourself has, because these images and things, they aren't helping anybody. Like, are you trying to make people envious or something? And if those images are hurting you, affecting you, then like, don't look at them. Of course, protect yourself and protect others. And if these people are your actual friends, you could actually tell them like, hey, Seems like your family's doing well or whatever, but I also know some people that, they see these things, they're already going through a lot of hard times with such and such, and it's not helpful. But I think more importantly, it's just each person for their personal policy. If you go on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and it's not being an edifying thing for you, well, either make it edifying for you, so only look at the stuff that's good for you, or don't even look at it at all if it's something you don't want to manage with, and then just say for social contact, I just contact people in this and this and this way, and we try to help each other, so you could channel your energy and attention to more useful things. You don't want to fall victim to the evil eye. What is the evil eye? The evil eye, Greek mati, is a superstitious belief in curse, believing to be cast by malevolent glare, usually given to a person when one is unaware. Blah, blah, blah. Many cultures believe that receiving the evil eye will cause misfortune or injury. Blah, blah, blah. Anyways, the point of bringing up evil eye and stuff is, if you're looking at stuff with envy, it's giving, not good thoughts with stuff, then you don't want to be a source of the evil eye. That is no bueno. I don't recommend magic charms and stuff to deflect it, but don't attract it, by posting stuff to tempt people or whatever. I don't think that's good. Okay. So, that does it for those Firefox tab stories. To close up, just a couple of spooky stories. So, first one here. DARPA-funded researchers accidentally create the world's first warp bubble. Whoops, we created a warp bubble. What's this story about? Quote, engage. Warp drive pioneer and former NASA warp drive specialist, Dr. Harvey G. Sonny White. Who's he? Well, he's got a pretty spacey looking picture here. Mechanical engineer, physics. Experience working at Boeing, Lockheed Martin, NASA, and Limitless Space Institute. Alright. What does Limitless Space Institute do? Infinite possibilities come to those who believe. Is this some kind of religion? What are they? They're asking us to believe. I thought this was just the science, but now you're talking about believing in infinite possibilities. What do you guys do? Inspire and educate the next generation to travel beyond our solar system, and support the research and development of enabling technologies. What? Vision statement: advance human exploration beyond our solar system. Core values: integrity, courage, and imagination. Alright, you're a IRC 501c3 organization. Okay, so they probably get a bunch of money to tell people to believe and hope in space stuff. Anyways, that's what this guy works with. So what does our warp drive specialist have to say? So this doctor guy, PhD, has reported the successful manifestation of an actual real-world warp bubble. And according to White, so the scientist, his first of its kind breakthrough by his Limitless Space Institute team sets a new starting point for those trying to manufacture a full-size warp-capable spacecraft. Alright, so while we're dealing with lowly questions and stuff of poverty on Earth, there's a warp drive being developed. You're missing out. Lasagna is good says space exploration is like rich people giving up on society. So what I have to say to you, lasagna is good, is you just have to believe. That's what they're telling you. You have to believe, number one. And maybe if you had more integrity, courage, and imagination, you too could be a spacefarer. But if you're lacking in integrity, courage, and imagination, you know, you might think that they're actually just a bunch of con artists because you can't imagine that it's true. If you lack in courage, you might not be able to call them out. And if you lack integrity, you might snitch on the people in your secret society. But they have integrity, courage, and imagination. And they believe. So that's why they're able to go to space. And you can't go to space. All right. So let's find more about this warp-capable spacecraft. To be clear, our finding is not a warp bubble analog. It is a real, albeit humble and tiny, warp bubble, White told the debrief, quickly dispensing with the notion that this is anything other than the creation of an actual real world warp bubble. Hence the significance. All right. In 1994, Mexican mathematician Miguel Alcubierre proposed the first mathematically valid solution to the warp drive. So, a link to an article. The warp drive, hyperfast travel within general relativity. All right. So you have a citation, you have sources. More specifically, he outlined a spacecraft propulsion system once envisioned in science fiction that can traverse the cosmos above the speed of light without violating currently accepted laws of physics. So you do some mathemagics and you come up with a warp drive that doesn't violate your math laws, then suddenly you have warp drive tech. So did they try to build what these Mexican scientists came up with? What happened?
Hello, my name is Sonny White.
So we have a man in front of a space background talking to us.
I'm the Director of Advanced Research and Development here at the Limitless Space Institute. And I want to talk to you guys today about some work we've been doing for DARPA Defense Science Office.
Okay, DARPA Defense Science Office. All right. So, yeah, what's interesting here, it's like he stumbled across this potentially historic discovery. You know, they're just doing all this science at DARPA, and it's like, oh, whoops, we accidentally built a warp drive. So if this is starting to sound like a goofy Hollywood movie to you, maybe it's because they have similar sources. I don't know. You know, I'm not an insider who is in the know enough to tell you for certain any of these things, but just to say, a lot of this stuff sounds awfully suspicious. Awfully suspicious. All right, one more story. Another glowing story to end the stream. From Vice, their motherboard, their tech stories. The CIA is deep into cryptocurrency, director reveals. So, any surprises there? You know, especially like you have Bitcoin or something. Bitcoin is not a private currency. Of course, all the transactions are on the ledger. So, if you know, like what someone's Bitcoin address is, you could see all the funds that are going to and from them. So there are cryptocurrencies that are made with privacy and concerns like that in mind. But the cryptocurrency, like if you hear the word cryptocurrency, do not equate it with privacy, because the technology does not mean like privacy. You could look at what the actual technologies that people are rolling out are. All right. Quote. There's a long-running conspiracy theory among a small number of cryptocurrency enthusiasts that Bitcoin's anonymous inventor Satoshi Nakamoto was actually the CIA or another three-lettered agency. That fringe theory is having a fresh day in the sun after CIA Director William Burns said on Monday that the intelligence agency has a number of different projects focused on cryptocurrency on the go. Okay, so I'll just say, personally, I don't believe one way or another that Feds made Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, but how do you know that it wasn't them? Are you talking to all of them? Did they confirm that? And furthermore, would somebody working for an intelligence agency ever lie? So to just call that sort of stuff conspiracy theory and stuff, it's to claim that you have some special knowledge into the actual answer for this question, and if you don't actually have that special access to that knowledge, then what you're doing is you're just wrongfully smearing certain positions, I don't know, because your editor told you to. All right, let's continue. Burns made his comments at the tail end of a talk at the Wall Street Journal's CEO Summit after discussing everything from the possible Russian invasion of Ukraine to the challenges of space. Someone in the audience asked if the agency is on top of cryptocurrencies, which are currently at the center of the ransomware epidemic. Interesting language there. Cyber pandemic, epidemics. Check out the etymology for the word cybernetics. Cyber has to do with control and governance, just to let you know. Learn Greek. That U.S. officials are attempting to get a handle on and stamp out. Here's what Burns said. This is something I inherited. My professor had started this, but had... I clicked on the link. Let's go back. This is something I inherited. My predecessor had started this, but had set in motion a number of different projects focused on cryptocurrency and trying to look at second and third order consequences as well, and helping with our colleagues in other parts of the U.S. government to provide solid intelligence on what we're seeing as well. Did any of you think that quote was very informative? Or did that sound like quintessential Fed speak? Let's try this. We'll do some play acting. Alan, are you Satoshi Nakamoto? Did you invent Bitcoin? This is something I inherited. My predecessor had started this, but had set in motion a number of different projects focused on cryptocurrency and trying to look at second and third order consequences as well, and helping with our colleagues in other parts of the U.S. government to provide solid intelligence on what we're seeing as well. So I hope I answered everybody's questions. Thank you all for joining this stream. I think tomorrow I'll plan to continue doing another stream at 3:30 p.m., the time I've been doing most streams at. Pacific Standard Time, California time, whatever you have. Anyways, thank you all for joining, and hope to see many of you again in the future. Like, share, subscribe, do all the YouTube stuff, and thank you for joining.